Hi, it's Wynn, and welcome to another video by the Entropy system. Imagine, if you will, that you are dating someone with DID or OSDD. Continue imagining, if you will, that the alter you are primarily in a relationship with is a dog alter. Now, this person is a adult human who interacts with the world and can speak English and has a high level of emotional maturity. They just happen to be in the headspace a dog. Now, if someone were to come up to you and start accusing you of doing morally terrible things with animals because you were dating an alter who happened to be a dog in the headspace, that would be ridiculous. Alters are not in the body what they are in the headspace. A centaur alter is still a human. A billion-year-old alter is still confined to the age and experiences of the body. A robot alter is still flesh and blood. Now, of course, there are some deviations from this rule, things like gender identity, which is a personal identity to begin with, is something that alter just is. We have alters that are female, that are male, that are non-binary like myself, but we have also had multiple fairy alters, and nobody thinks that they are actually a fairy out in the real world. Most of what comprises an alter's identity in a DID or OSDD system is symbolic. And I feel like, for the most part, people who know about this disorder understand that. The area they seem to lose sight of this, though, is in regards to littles. There are people both with this disorder and without that believe that all littles across the board should be treated identically to biological children. This is not only wrong, but spreading this kind of idea can be really damaging and hinder the healing of systems. In 2018, Encina Severo was interviewed on Med Circle about her experiences with dissociative identity disorder.
You have 11 other alters that you can go into. Can you tell me about each one of those?
During this interview, one of her littles fronted and took on some of the questions.
You're Minnie?
Yeah. I'm Minnie. I'm Flea.
The video is honestly pretty lovely, and I think that the interviewer and Encina both discussed DID in a very thoughtful way. But after she revealed that she had DID and that her system included at least one little, people started making terrible accusations. You see, Encina was also an adult entertainer. One drama channel, who I'm not going to name, and who I discovered that the video has been taken down, so yay, suggested that not only was it unethical for her to be making this content, but it was also morally compromising for anyone to watch her content, because, in his words, how do you know it's not a little fronting in that picture? In a separate situation, a system and their partner came forward to discuss their experiences of being in a relationship and having DID. Once this video was posted, people started accusing the partner of doing terrible, morally corrupt things with children. Why? Because one of the alters they were primarily dating was an age slider, meaning an alter who sometimes identifies with a higher age, sometimes with a lower age. So why are these kinds of beliefs and accusations wrong? How is something like that harmful? What is a little to begin with? Let's break that down. Little is a common word for child alters. Broadly speaking, that means alters in a DID or OSDD system that identify about the age of 12 or younger. The range will vary depending on who you ask, and sometimes people will call alters between the ages of, say, 8 and 12 middles, since they're not quite super childish but not quite teen alters yet. But for the ease of understanding, I'm just going to be using the word little across the board. Littles identify with young ages for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they hold on to that age because that is the age the body was when the trauma occurred that made them. Sometimes littles are formed to reclaim the joy of childhood that the system never got to experience. Sometimes littles identify with a young age because the amount of unprocessed trauma that they hold make them feel very small. The list goes on and on. But like many details of alter identity, an alter's identified age is largely symbolic. And at the end of the day, no matter how young or old an alter identifies, they are still a part of a brain and a body that are a specific age. Many things that are not okay for children to do or be involved in are not okay because the child has a brain and a body that is not developed enough to safely engage in whatever activity. But if a little is in the brain and body of, say, a 34-year-old, then biologically, that little is 34. Their emotional and mental maturity may be less developed and look a lot like a kid, but because of that significant biological difference, they are not actual children. For this reason, some systems have littles that can drive, or can perform tasks at work, or that smoke or drink, or other things that would be wholly inappropriate for actual children to do. But for them, it's okay. Why is it then that it's so common for people to treat littles like children? There are some very valid reasons for systems to take this approach. Many littles are emotionally and mentally vulnerable. They may have low emotional maturity, low stress thresholds, low problem-solving skills, or a number of other things that would cause them to need a heightened level of assistance. Not all littles are vulnerable alters, and not all vulnerable alters are littles, but these two traits coincide quite often. Another reason that systems might treat their littles like children is to allow themselves to experience a kind and gentle caregiver, something they may not have experienced in childhood. After all, DID is a trauma disorder that is formed exclusively in childhood, and oftentimes that involves caregivers who either caused harm or didn't or couldn't prevent it. Giving care and protection to their littles can help a system heal the void that was left by the lack of care and protection in their own childhoods. These, of course, are not the only two reasons, but they are examples of valid reasons why systems may choose to have boundaries regarding their littles that are very much like boundaries that would be given to actual children. It's important to remember, though, that it is up to the system and the system's therapist to navigate making these types of loving boundaries for the alters who need them. These boundaries are not meant to restrict or shame, but instead protect and allow for healing. Boundaries like littles are not allowed to drive, or littles are not allowed to go to work, can be put in place to keep the system physically safe. Our littles technically can drive, but they don't have the type of reaction time that would make it safe for them to do so. So we have a hard rule: littles in my system do not drive a car. Boundaries restricting who littles can interact with and how they're allowed to interact with them can prevent them from reenacting trauma or experiencing new trauma at the hands of someone who is unsafe. If a system sets up these kind of boundaries for their littles, it's important to honor those boundaries. There are lots of littles whose healthiest experience involves being treated very similarly to biological children. There is no problem with systems making this choice for themselves. The issue comes up when outsiders try to make these calls on a system's behalf. If a system is making choices for themselves and their healing, and it doesn't cause direct harm to anyone else, it is not our place as strangers to decide if this choice is good or not. Healing from trauma looks different for everyone. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. They're healing in the ways that are best for them. The choices and boundaries systems make for themselves, whether it's unified across the board or varies from alter to alter, are their decisions to make. And furthermore, it's important to understand that if they do have very restrictive boundaries on a few of their alters, those boundaries don't necessarily apply to the whole system. Our littles can't drive, but we still have to go to work and get groceries and other important things that we can only do with a car. So of course, we still drive a car even though our littles can't. To take it to a place that even non-systems should be able to understand, I, as Win, do not drink when I am sad. I just have that as a boundary for myself because I feel like that puts me in a compromising position that could develop into something negative. That doesn't mean I don't drink ever, just when I am in a vulnerable state, I don't participate. In the same way, systems can have hobbies or interest or jobs, yes, even adult jobs, even if they have boundaries for some of their alters to not participate. Deciding what alters can or can't or should or shouldn't do is up to the system and that system's therapist. Whatever they decide is healthy for themselves is the correct choice for that system. Even if you don't understand, even if you disagree. Publicly shaming systems for being adult entertainers or for dating despite being an age slider or any other personal choice is not okay. And yet people feel justified trying to remove system autonomy when it comes to littles because that system has boundaries they don't agree with for their own system, or they simply don't understand how alter identity works. The majority of DID and OSDD systems are recovering from trauma that involved the removal of our autonomy and agency. I hope people can begin to see that continuing to fight systems autonomy into adulthood is not some grand, noble champion cause. It just spreads misinformation and hinders healing. I'm not going to have a direct call for comment engagement on this one because I don't want anyone to come under fire in my comment section because they have looser boundaries on their littles than somebody else, but I am interested to hear your thoughts and feedback. And if you're a DID or OSDD system and are wanting to discuss things like this with other people like you, please consider checking out the sponsor of our channel, Dissociative.cafe. It's a forum and blog made by systems for systems. It's grounded, healing first, and honestly just a lovely community. And if you're wanting to see more of us, please consider joining our Patreon. We have fun rewards like exclusive content, Patreon-only Discord server, and even a monthly Zoom call. A big thank you to all of you who are already patrons of our channel, and an extra big thank you to Disco Delirium, The Electric Circus, Shimrin, Sarah G, The Swamp System, Sarah Beers, and Will Mitchell. Well, you're the reason we're able to continue making content. We could not do this without you. And to everyone still watching, please remember, you are loved, you are valuable, and you are valid. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye!